Hey, what's going on, guys? This is your old pal CHH here again. So I just got out of seeing the first Omen on my 32nd birthday, mind you. Thanks to everybody who reached out and said happy birthday. I feel great, guys. I feel great. I'm motivated. I'm doing good. Everything's great. So thank you guys for, sticking with me on this journey. So anyway, went and saw the first Omen. Huge fan of the Omen. It's probably one of my favorite horror movies. Nobody gives me flack over this, but I've been vocal saying, as much as I love The Exorcist, my favorite kind of devil movie from the 70s is the Omen. Fan of the sequels. I like 2, 3's good. The 4th one is bad, good, I guess. Not a huge fan of that remake that came out in, 2007. So for the most part, I think the Omen has some pretty good entries in it. So when I heard about the first Omen coming out, I didn't really think much of it until I saw the trailer, and I was like, it looks better than I thought it would, and the word started creeping out. People were seeing the film, and they were like, this is actually pretty good. So, you never know what to expect. Sometimes you feel maybe people are compensating because maybe they don't feel like there's a lot of great movies coming out lately, and so they kind of have to try to make themselves feel like this stuff is better than it is. I'm not accusing anybody. I'm just saying I feel like that can happen. I know it's happened to me before where I've kind of compensated. With all that being said, went and saw The Omen, and again, this isn't a movie I really need to do any spoilers about because, look, it's called The First Omen, so guess what this is about? This is about, you guessed it, the journey to the birth of Damien. So, yeah, everybody should know that. So, again, not something I should need to spoil. Right off the bat, I always like to tell you exactly how I feel in the beginning. Really liked it. Definitely another solid movie. Going to give this one a strong 4 stars. This movie, in a nutshell, is about this girl, Margaret, who goes to Italy, and she is within the the religious system, and she's going to be a nun, and she has some backstory to her. You find out she was an orphan, she was under the care of this priest, and there's this whole conglomerate in Italy, and there are some really creepy moments that start happening in the film, but they're not prototypical in a way. They're actually really creative, and the movie certainly has a dark look that I really like. It's kind of not hard to see, but it doesn't look super Hollywood, which was a big surprise considering I think this was 20th Century Fox, which is under the Disney umbrella, I believe. So just kind of came out of left field. I wasn't expecting a movie to kind of have the look and feel that this one did. And now I'm not going to try to be disrespectful to The Exorcist Believer or to any of the other kind of legacy sequels sort of things that have been going on lately. I hate to pick on The Exorcist Believer, but it's actually a really great example. Mind you, I did not hate The Exorcist Believer. I certainly have soured on the idea of the movie, and looking back on it, I think a little bit less of it today than I did when I initially saw it. But, this is exactly how you do a movie years later, and respectful may be the wrong word to use, but really feel like it's got its own legs, so to speak. Despite the fact that it's tied in with the first movie. And this is a prequel, so it's a little different, but man, the first Omen, to me, is an extremely better movie than a movie like The Exorcist Believer or some of these other movies that are, involved with these legacy horror films. And I really give a lot of credit to that. And then when you look at the movies like the Conjuring universe, while I'm a fan of a lot of those movies, it's really hard for me to deny that a lot of them start to have this really superficial feel because they all kind of have this glossy, nice, they all feel the same, which, again, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but when you look at something like The First Omen, it has so much respect for the original. There's a lot of the same music cues, which are great, but this movie feels like its own movie, and it feels so unsuperficial. This feels like a legitimate, really good, film. And I really got to say, I liked it a lot. Extremely strong opening. And if you're a fan of The Omen, you know that there are shocking images and moments in The Omen that make it a classic. There are a few callbacks to the original film, but they never feel hokey. I actually thought one of the scenes that they did was like something you would see from the original, but they raised it a step up, and I thought that was really great. This movie just felt unsafe, which is such a great feeling. Like, when you start watching the movie, within the first 20 minutes, you feel like, okay, I thought I had an idea of what this movie was going to do visually, the boundaries they may not want to push, but they kind of do, so this movie doesn't feel very safe. It feels like, hey, buckle up, man, this is the first Omen. The Omen was a classic, we're going to try to make this a classic. So, in terms of the enjoyment I had from this movie, guys, I really liked it. I mean, There was a cohesion to everything. All the actors were really great. There were some great actors in this movie. So, and our lead that played Margaret was sensational, and she had to go through some really harrowing emotions in the movie. So, just a damn good job. This movie, I think, really is kind of like taking people by surprise. It's sneaking in and showing people, hey, we can do something with a legacy title and do something legitimately good that stands completely on its own, you know. And again, I don't want to pick on the Blumhouse stuff going on with the Halloweens and the Exorcists, and even really picking on the Conjuring films. But if you kind of feel the same way I do, where you like the Conjuring films, but they all start to have this kind of feel the same way a little bit, and you kind of know what kind of scares they're going to do, and it starts to feel a little superficially. The first Omen doesn't do that whatsoever. The first Omen feels like a dangerous film, and the images that they show in this movie really push the envelope. I was taken back at a few moments. I was just like, holy crap, that is grotesque. And obviously, with this being a religious-style horror movie, like, when you think about this sort of stuff, I mean, visually, you can have some horrifying images that come to mind when you think about, you know, the devil trying to rebirth its Omen and all this sort of stuff, and the religious, you know, vibe of everything, and they did a great job on this. So, yeah, a solid 4-star movie for me. I just thought it was really good. It's a really good movie, close to great movie. It's not, the reason I wouldn't say it's a great movie, it's because, you know, it's not treading anything new. Obviously, it's a prequel to The Omen, but that's fine. Not everything has to be a 5-star film, but in terms of just being a damn good movie, man, the first Omen did such a great job, and it's a very welcomed addition to the Omen series. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything I didn't like about it. Not really. I mean, the only thing I can complain about was the theater was freezing cold and I had shorts on. Breath of fresh air, and very enjoyable, guys. So that's it for me. The first Omen, I give it 2 thumbs up. Really good movie. Check it out. You're going to be surprised. This movie does not feel superficial whatsoever. Huge, giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.